Tonight we're having a riveting discussion on performance-enhancing drugs in sport. This is not something on the internet, although you might be watching on the internet. This is not some foreigner. This is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. This is right here, Woodbrook, Porter, Spain. And right now we're going to talk with Mr. Anderson about some of the hype. What do people realistically expect when they get a product from you?
Most people, the layman that is, or the person that's not experienced in using it, they think it's a miracle drug. They think they're going to pop a pill, or they think they're going to take an injection and they're going to get superhuman, they're going to get buff, they're going to get big and strong. It does work like that over time, but it's not like, how most people imagine. I try to tell people, I try to draw the analogy to, let's say, a race car. You're in a race, you accelerate to get past the car that you want to pass, but you don't keep accelerating. You're going to blow your engine. So you get past the car, you stop accelerating, and you regularize your pace. Then you go again, you overtake the other car, and it's bit by bit. Right.
So these people would come to you, they ask you for whatever. Do you administer the product to them? Do you give advice on what to do? Because it's medication.
Yeah, I do actually. I do have to administer sometimes because a lot of these steroids are injectable steroids, and people are afraid of needles.
That's another thing in Trinidad. We don't have that needle culture, which is why we don't really have a heroin problem. But you're saying we do, so they're afraid of it, but they go take it.
They're afraid of it, and then you have to know how to administer it too. If you shoot the wrong place, you can put yourself in trouble.
Trouble like?
Most of the time you shoot your glutes, which is your
buttocks.
Right. And there's a sciatic nerve running straight down the back of your leg. If you happen to hit that sciatic nerve, you could paralyze yourself temporarily. Or
dead leg?
Yeah. Pretty painful. You don't want to hit that nerve.
Wow.
You have to know how deep to go. You have to know how much you can put into the muscle, stuff like that. You can't do it wrong. And you can wind up in trouble. You can wind up with abscesses and stuff at the site if it's not deep enough, if it doesn't get deep into the muscle tissue and that kind of thing too.
Wow. This is borderline crazy.
Well, it's not crazy to the people who are accustomed to using it.
Which is people like you. Talk to me about how you got into this thing.
I was always into bodybuilding. From the very first time I saw my first bodybuilding show on ABC on one of them stations, and I saw Boyako and I saw Franco Colombo and those guys, and I always wanted to be big. So from a very young age, from school, I started lifting weights. And then I got older, I got into the gym, and I used to see these guys that were humongous and ridiculously strong. And I always wondered, I was always a strong guy for my size, for my age. And I wondered, how did they get to that level? And it was just small talk. And one day, I asked one of the guys, I said, what do you use? What supplement you take and that kind of thing. And he practically laughed at me. He said, listen, if you want to take it to the next level or whatever, here's what you have to use. And I could have gotten it right in the drugstore, in the gym car park.
Really?
Over the counter.
Not now.
Knock, knock.
Why? What changed?
What changed in terms of what?
What changed in terms of the culture?
I don't think it changed, really. It was, I just got the knowledge at that point. I didn't know.
Drugs became a bad thing, I think, when Ben Johnson beat Carl Lewis in Seoul in 1988. Right? Drugs became bad. But Carl, let me get serious now. That wasn't the only man in that race. All right, Carl? Not that Carl Lewis watches my show.
I agree.
Why do you think it's... I think it's the worst, best kept secret in sports that people are using performance-enhancing drugs for just about every mainstream competitive sport.
I think it's quite laughable how it was criminalized around that time when the U.S., in my opinion, when the U.S. got got the tail cut. And Ben Johnson was found using stanozolol, I think it was.
Which is horse.
Yes.
Winstrol.
Winstrol. There is pharmaceutical grade Winstrol, but most of it that is floating around is vet grade.
Jaime Astafan, the doctor, was buying it from a veterinarian.
That's correct.
The people thought he was working with the racetrack.
And then I think it was the Reagan administration around that time, they decided to criminalize it. And it became a witch hunt after that. The media took off with it, ran. And the kind of information you were getting about steroids was a lot of rubbish, actually. Because people didn't know. We had no idea of how steroids worked, why it worked, that kind of thing. They had no idea of how widespread the use was, but the media just took it and run like it was the worst thing ever that you could have used, and you consider it a cheat if you use it, and that kind of thing, but everybody was on it.
Skip forward a couple years, and there's another American, Lance Armstrong, mainstream, winning the Tour de France, 7. Remember that? Yeah, 7 Tours de France.
Poor Lance. That's all I have to say.
Demonized.
Yes.
Why do you think?
Demonized for doing something that everybody else was doing. I think though Lance may have had a genetic advantage, even though he was doping, because all the other fellas are doping. Cycling tends to be a sport where they use a drug called EPO. It's a very long name, I can't remember the exact name. Right. EPO doubles your red blood cell count, you have more oxygen going to your muscles, you're able to perform
It's
better.
like turbocharging your blood.
Right. Or they also use something called blood doping. A few weeks before competition, they actually remove a pint or 2 of your own blood, put it in the freezer, when it's close to the competition time, put it back into your body. So that also doubles your red blood cell count. These practices and these steroids or whatever are common in the sport. It's just that he ended up, he was very successful, so of course, spotlight is going to be on him. And then he was made a scapegoat in the end.
Right.
It's sad that he had to actually give back.
Why is it sad?
I think it's sad because...
It's a farce.
Exactly. The man who came in second place, who's to say that he wasn't using as well?
Well,
I could say you might not have been using, but you might have to go down to about 10, 15 to find a totally clean athlete.
Exactly.
Coming right back at you, talking about performance-enhancing drugs. Next, we might find out, hey, what's the price? How much this thing has cost? You know what? Don't go away if you want to find out. We're on the record.
Tonight.